Hey, welcome back to my channel. My name is Luann, and today I want to talk about what type Nathan, the guy that edits my video, might be. So we have been so confused about this for as long as I can. I'm not even going to tell you what I think possibilities are. I'm just going to tell you exactly what I perceive from Nathan, and then Nathan will edit this and he can say that I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
If he thinks something I'm saying that I don't have the proper context on it, or add in his own little 2 cents. Nathan, I don't care how you do that. But let's just try to get this figured out. So I need to talk about how Nathan and I came to know each other. So I had made a video on YouTube about 2 years ago about being an ESTP female. Under that video, I put my Snapchat code, and occasionally I would have people reach out to me on Snapchat and just say, hey, well, Nathan did that.
So when you think back over your life and the people you know and the important moments in your life, you'll realize that a lot of them, if not most of them, are based on or have an element of chance, particularly chance encounters. For example, there's many of my family members, my stepfather, my mother, for example, and my grandparents who met under very, very chance circumstances. Circumstances that 99% of the time probably wouldn't happen. So lots of our life involves this, but I think that a lot of us forget sometimes. I definitely forget this. So a couple of years back, I can't remember when it was that I thought this, I kind of wondered, can you use this idea in any way in your life? And I decided that I'd play a kind of a little game. I'd do some kind of experiment where I'd just get in my car, drive to somewhere I've never been before and never would usually go, and just start a conversation with someone and see where it went. Most of the time it goes nowhere, but you'd be very surprised at who you can end up meeting. So I like to try and take control of that idea, and that's particularly why I reached out in this case. So anyone that's wanting to reach out to someone, just remember that there are basically no rules. Our life is so governed by chance anyway, that what difference does it make if you do something that's weird or considered to be weird? I mean, nothing is weird.
I don't know. I don't even know when he did it. I don't know. Nathan, have we even been friends for a year? But sometimes when people do it, I would have a small conversation. I really enjoy, one-on-one interactions, and so I'm always happy when people reach out and say hey. And so I was super happy to hear from him, and we had a short little conversation. And then we've talked about this in the past. We talked about it a couple weeks later, and then he said he could tell that I was kind of just dismissing him, like, it's nice that you reached out, but have a good day. And he advised me to make more YouTube videos. And I was like, well, I plan to, but I don't know what I said. But he said, well, I can be very persistent. And after the fact, he told me that he strategically said that so that he would have a reason to say hey in a week or two. And so then he reached out in a week or two and asked how my YouTube videos were going, and I slowly started uploading videos to YouTube. But the editing process was so daunting to me. Oh, but Nathan and I, so we became friends because we have a lot of very similar interests. I feel like our brains work in a similar manner in that we find the same people interesting. We've talked about Gary Vaynerchuk, Robert Greene, how to win friends and influence people. We watch a lot of the same YouTube videos. I'm trying to think right now. Nathan, what are some of our similar interests? I think maybe having similar interests might say something about somebody. I mean, maybe not that much. Well, so anyway, I mean, out of everyone that I've talked to online, like, Nathan and I became friends, and he strategically made that happen. He's a 25-year-old guy.
Actually, I'm only 24 years old, so the fact that I look 25 is kind of depressing, actually.
like he's extremely developed and, you know, like that he's not 40 years old and he hasn't like really experienced the world. So I would say that probably what I'm interacting with is his type, but we can't figure out what it is. So he kept getting on me about making more videos and doing YouTube videos. And so one day I was like, well, hey, why don't you take up editing? He is a music teacher. Also, this may be interesting to know. So he taught himself how to play music. And I forget what instrument it was. His grandma gave him a guitar that only had 3 strings or something like that. And he taught himself to play something with a broken music something. And now he's a piano teacher. He taught himself how to play piano, and now he has students and he teaches people.
That story about the guitar is fantastic, but also not true. So I took up guitar lessons because I was off school for a few months, and my mother just signed me up for guitar lessons. Great teacher, taught me a lot. Then I taught myself piano after that. So one of my nans plays the blues and one of my nans plays church music. So I had those 2 influences to come together. If anyone wants to learn piano or guitar, firstly, I could teach you, but I'd highly recommend trying to teach yourself on the internet just using YouTube.
I think he's got a pretty busy schedule. I mean, I don't even actually know that much about his life other than, you know, other than our interactions and our similar interests. But so he taught himself how to play piano, and then he just jumped into teaching piano. He listed himself as a teacher somewhere online, and he just slowly has gotten students. And I mean, he's a pretty good teacher. And the way that so when I said, why don't you take up editing and I will make the videos and we can learn these processes together and put it kind of together. And so he did, and he really, really enjoys. I asked him the other day what he gets out of it, and he was like, well, he really enjoys learning the process of it all. I think it seems like he really likes people because he talks about his students. Some of his students he hangs out with for like 5 hours a week. I mean, it's online, but he's become very good friends with it. He lives in, well, I mean, I don't know if you want to say where you live, but he doesn't live in the States. So, but he's got students in the States. So he plans on visiting some of his students sometime in the near future. So, I mean, I've talked about him to some extent other times. He is not afraid to say what he wants. So, what was the example I gave in the communications video? I forget what example I gave. Oh, we hadn't talked for a while one time, and this was before we started making videos together, and I at that point had already, you know, very much value him being in my life. Like he makes my life a better place. So not talking for a week, I was like, well, I want to say hey. So I just texted him and I said, hey, how are you? And he said, you don't have to text and ask how I am. and I was like, why? We can't be friends or something. I don't remember exactly how the conversation went down, but he said, we are friends. My friends just know that I don't do small talk. So I feel like maybe that's significant because some people like to do small talk. Certain types of people are really good at small talk.
So I understand why people do small talk, but I don't really understand it. So if someone could explain to me what the point of small talk is, that would be great.
But he doesn't like small talk. Another thing, when I gave this example in my communication video, one day I was doing something that he usually does, and I had told him I was going to do it, but to keep his phone on him so that if I have questions that I could message him and have him help me walk through it or walk me through it. And he messaged me when I was already done, and he was like, hey, I don't like being micromanaged, but so-and-so. But he doesn't like being micromanaged, but he was curious about where I was at in the process, and he was nervous about me doing it without him. So it seems like he really enjoys details. Is that right, Nathan? Do you enjoy details?
That's a difficult question about details. I think I can handle details as long as they don't slow you down. So if details become inefficient details, then I probably don't like them.
The things that he does, like putting that video together, the response video to Eric talking with famous people, Nathan, am I wrong to say that you loved doing that video? That video was so challenging. So to put audio with the video, I had to record on my phone the video, and while I was recording on the camera and putting it all together took forever. I don't know how many hours you worked on it, Nathan, but it was a really long process. And then at the end, it ended up being longer than I wanted it. And so he had already spent, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours working on this video, and then he started sending it back to me and he told me how long it was, and I was like, I didn't want to post like a really, really long video because I didn't want to cash in on, you know, I didn't feel like I'm interesting enough to watch for as long as the video was. And I was like, is there any way you could cut it down? And he just went right to cutting it down. Now, if that had been me and I spent all that time, first of all, I probably would not have spent all that time editing the video. I would have just put up raw footage. And but then to have all that work and then have to go through and edit it again, like, I would have been mad. And Nathan didn't seem like he was upset at all. He was just like, okay, and just started. And then when he was doing it, he was like, oh yeah, this is a better idea. And so he's super calm. Like, I've never sensed that he's gotten frustrated with me at all. Which is, I mean, a little unusual, I would think. Let's see, what else can I say? He really likes the seduction process a lot. I think that he likes seducing people more than he likes hooking up with people. So he's very much, he loves challenges. I think that he probably is, he likes a very active, challenged mind. More than physical challenges, I think that he likes mental challenges.
Yep, I definitely prefer mental challenges to physical challenges. If it was a physical challenge, I'd probably lose. So I think that's one reason for the preference.
Let people guesstimate what your type is. See how it works out.
If anyone has any advice, observations, or any questions I could ask myself to work out my type, then please let us know.